Well, folks, I've been working on my little room out here, and it's been a pretty nice day. It'd be nice to have help. That's all I gotta say. I know I've still got stuff out there that's supposed to be not be outside. It's in totes, but some of it's food and some of it's medicine, or over the counter medicine. It shouldn't be outside in the sun, but I had to use the OSB around it that I kept it shaded from for this flooring and this flooring here, and I've got to get the stuff up, and then I'm gonna, after I get the other rest of the walls on the outside up, the inside won't be up, but I've got a lot to do, a whole lot to do, and so anyway, I've been putting this video with these data centers. I just put it all together. I was going to talk a little bit in between each one, but I don't have time, and I'm trying to get this room done. I'm really trying, and with the pain that I get some days, especially in the mornings, until I have my coffee, and if I take aspirin, I take aspirin. If I just move around, some days I'm fine, but other days I have to take aspirin just to even stand straight up. Anyway, but these data centers, they're on board. They say I seen where there were 4,300 or 4,500, and they were going to build 1,500 more. Well, apparently they're on board to do anywhere from 9,000 to 12,000 in the United States. You have to remember that China only had, last time I knew, I think I don't even know if they're building anymore, but 450. What in the world do we need 9,000 or 12,000 of them for, and why? And it's like they're killing this land because they're sucking all the water out of the ground. It's going to collapse because there's no water, and it's opening up caverns and tunnels, and stream beds will be empty underneath the ground, and it's just ridiculous. And it's Mystery Babylon. That's just what I keep saying. This is Mystery Babylon. I mean, when you're taking a ship and going to go into the New York Harbor, the sign they look for says Babylon right on it, and that's when they turn into the New York Harbor. They're toward the New York Harbor. And then there's also a cavern under the sea that's Babylon. I'm telling you, this is Mystery Babylon. Now, I put a video out that said I think we could have an end game here, the 4th of July. I didn't mean that. It was a sure thing, but I just brought it up. Wouldn't it be interesting? I said in 2019, wouldn't it be interesting if they took away independence on Independence Day? And, the thing is, The Economist magazine, its cover has the 250-year birthday cake, and then they've got, I think it was ships carrying weapons all around it, going toward it. And then, of course, they got a plandemic, because it's all planned. Everything's planned. And they're doing a lot of distractions to keep your mind off of something. Like today I noticed, Kash Patel said on X that, they indicted 15 people for Medicaid fraud. You know what? Every time they do stuff like that, it never pans out. But you get all these people on board. Oh, well, I'm glad you did that. Now let's see them go to jail, They never go to jail. Hillary's never gone to jail. All the swamp went with Trump to actually, well, not all the swamp, not the whole swamp, but part of it, good part of it went to China with him, This country has been sold down the river a long time ago, and they're all just part of it. And the reason it works so well is because everybody believes that they're putting these presidents in office, and they're not. I'm telling you, they're not. And I wish people would wake up to the fact that they do not vote anybody in. All your vote does is tell them what you want to hear next time. Haven't you ever noticed that no president ever does what he says he's going to? Well, he might do one or two things he says he's going to. Or if he tries, then all of a sudden it's illegal and he can't do it, right? Well, but he tried. No, he didn't. He knew it was illegal before he did it. The only one that got away with more than, I didn't even think he got away with more than Trump was Obama. But, you know, somebody asked me here, the third or the fourth, it was the fourth. Well, would you rather Camilla got in there? I said, it doesn't matter. You don't, she was just like what Hillary was with Trump the first time. You know, she was one of them ditzy, cackling, drunk, laughing people that, you know, just said stupid stuff. So then people could say, well, you know, we knew she wouldn't get elected because, you know, she was too dumb, you know, or something. And Camilla didn't even, she made it, she started to run, but then she didn't go very far because she said too many stupid things and they didn't like that she was saying too many stupid things. And then, of course, one news broadcast got in trouble for lying or for editing the interview with her, 60 Minutes or something. I don't remember. But anyway, these are all distractions. This war is nothing but a big distraction. Don't forget, they want depopulation. What a better way to do it than start a war with somebody who we didn't have the Hormuz shut down before the war. Now we got it shut down. It's going back and forth, and they're diddling back and forth. And it's planned. It's planned, just like Jamie Walden said, you know, that the some intel was, they all know it. They're planning it because they're going to depopulate the earth one way or another, and this way they can say, but we didn't do that. They did it over there. You know, think about that. So anyways, I'm going to be done with my rant. It's already 7.5 minutes long, and I'm going to put this video up, and I'll probably try to come up with a new one for tomorrow, the next day. It's going to rain in a few days, so if I hit and miss, please forgive me, and just understand that I'm really busy and I have no help, and I have to do everything, and I do everything by hand. I wash clothes by hand. I cook, you know, from scratch for the most part. I don't buy junk food. Well, it's rare if I do. And I wash dishes by hand, and I don't have a shower or a tub, so I wash up. I don't, you know, it takes hours to heat. I'm not like most people, and most people don't get that unless you lived in the 1800s or something, which nobody today has because they're all dead, right? That's kind of like what it's like. You know, you have to get things going. And if you had a wife to do the cooking, the laundry, and keeping the house and that kind of stuff, then that would help me out a lot right there. But I don't have one of those. And I probably never will. In this day and age, you can't get anybody to live like that, except the ones that do live like that are already spoken for, it seems like. So, I just, anyway. So I've got my work cut out for me. I'm trying my best. And the sun was shining today. See, it's still shining out there a little bit. But it's toward the end of the day now. And I got to go. I'll put this together. I'll put it up. And thank you very much for paying attention to my rant. And then pay attention to this because this is important. Okay? Everything I put up, I think is important. You might not, but I do. Pay attention, please. Give a like or a thumbs up, however you want to put it. And subscribe if you haven't. It would be nice. And share it with everybody you know. They need to see it. I'm out.
So I wanted to mention something about that I was reading about these data centers. there's not a person in the country, left, right, doesn't matter, that doesn't think or understand that China, excuse me, is a big surveillance state. They have technology that they have implemented well beyond what we have as far as surveilling its citizens. Their facial recognition systems are about 98 to 99% accurate. We've all seen the videos over the years where, the social credit systems and everything that you do, it scans your picture and your face, and they have about 4.5 to 5 times as many people in that country as we do. And they have about 600 million surveillance cameras in China. That's double the amount of people that we have in this country. And they have all of this very well-developed surveillance system. I'm telling you stuff that you already, for the most part, know, right? We agree. Is that something I'm assuming that we agree that China is a massive surveillance state? I mean, you can't do anything. They've got cameras that they monitor how much garbage and what type of garbage that you throw away in your garbage bin, and then it determines how wasteful you are, and then that determines your social credit system score. And then they have gates and stuff where if you're traveling, you can't travel into certain neighborhoods if you have a low credit score or social credit score, all this kind of stuff. Well, anyways, the point that I'm getting at is that through all that data that's been collected by the Chinese government, they have about 450 data centers, which is the places that collect this and process it and everything. 450 data centers for almost 1.5 billion people, 600 million surveillance cameras, and a very, very intricate network of just social credit systems and surveillance. 450 data centers. America's looking at about 5,000 data centers, and when it's all said and done, by about 2030, it's projected that we'll have somewhere around 9,000 data centers. And some of these data centers are multiple square acres in size, some of them even square miles in size. And so the point that I'm getting at is that, and this is the question that I've asked many times before, why? Why the need for data centers that large and that many? I mean, we don't have a surveillance system nearly as big and dramatic as China. Not even close. So what is it? What is it that they are expecting, that they're projecting in the future, that they need this much data computing power, this artificial intelligent computing power? I mean, I don't have the specific answers. I've given you my speculations, but I just wanted to put that into kind of a perspective of the biggest surveillance state that we know of. I mean, it's bigger than North Korea, bigger than the United Kingdom, any of them. And they have 450 data centers. Germany is number 2 behind the United States with something like 800 or 900 surveillance data centers. I don't know. Figure it out. My opinion is still the same. It's not good. Regardless of what the reason, the true reason is, it's not good. And we're seeing billionaires, Kevin Leary and other people like that have you wouldn't think they have any business connections to this kind of stuff. They're investing in it. They're investing in it because they see whatever is going on, whoever they're talking to, that they're going to make some big bucks. And that's another question. Where's the profit in this? Okay, let's say it's to create this big surveillance system. How do you profit on that? Something's going on, and you should probably be getting ready for it. And stay alert to your local communities. This is happening everywhere where they're popping up, and local governments and stuff are approving it because it looks really good on paper. If there's nothing going on in your area, in your town, or your county, start going to council meetings and commissioners meetings or whatever you have, and push them to create statutes, ordinances that these things are banned, even if they're banned for, say, 3 or 4 years. Sometimes it's better to do that than a permanent all-out ban. You know, try to push them to pass, you know, some type of local law that prevents them from being built in your community for X a number of years. That's a good idea.
Take a look at this. People are no longer staying quiet to this nonsense.
Last December, Time magazine selected its Person of the Year for 2025. And this time, it was the architects of artificial intelligence. Interesting. It will touch every profession, every classroom, every hospital, every laboratory, every person, and every relationship you have. I know what many of you are feeling about that. I can hear you. There is a fear. We do not know the precise contours of what this transformation will look like. Choose a diversity of perspectives, including, let me add, and if you'd let me make this point, please. If you don't care about science, that's okay, because AI is going to touch everything else as well. Whatever path you choose, AI will become part of how work is done. If you have a problem in the world you want to solve, you can now assemble a team of AI agents to help you with the parts that you could never accomplish on your own. Let me give you some advice. First, find a way to say yes. And thank you very much and good night.
Look at this gobstopper. You have this music CEO telling the students, do something about it.
Streaming rewrote the economics. Social media rewrote the discovery model. AI is rewriting production as we sit here. I know it. Deal with it. Like I said, it's a tool. Hey, like I said, you can hear me now or you can pay me later. Hey, then do something about it, okay? It's a tool. Make it work for you. The things you learn.
These students graduating from these universities, spending all this time, money, and effort, are listening to CEOs tell them how AI is going to shape the future, how AI is going to shape society instead of them. Spending all those years to get that degree. Let's say some of these students, 4 years, 6 years, started back in 2020, started back in 2022. Spending all that time from then to now, they had to hear constantly about the rise of AI, how AI is going to replace jobs, how a lot of these degrees coming out of these universities are now basically useless because of AI. And now you gotta listen to somebody during your graduation day tell you how great AI is. I'd be booing too, yelling out somebody get this jack donkey off the stage. But moving on to data centers, this next video from Shanane Jens, a professor, put together how tolling this data center over in Utah, which is the biggest data center in the United States, if not the world, will be on Utah. And spoiler alert, it's a complete nightmare.
Physics professor at Utah State University did some research on Kevin O'Leary's supervillain data center, and the results are damning. In his report, he details that this data center puts out so much energy and heat that it's the equivalent to 23 atomic bombs. It runs the same amount of energy as 40,000 Walmarts and 2 New York cities if everything was running. The specific town that it's going to be in, the daytime temperatures are going to be increased by 2 to 5 degrees, and at night it's going to be increased by 8 to 12 degrees because of how much heat and energy this thing will put off. It's the largest data center that's ever been proposed in the world. And with all of this information that he sums up, he basically ends his report by saying that this is going to destroy that town and potentially Utah's ecosystem. It's going to destroy the native species that are there. The invasive species are going to take over, the ones that can survive the drought that this data center will supply to that town in Utah.
Did anybody out there really trust Shark Tank billionaire CEO Kevin O'Leary when he said they're going to be producing their own energy, that they're not going to go ahead and touch any resources, it's not going to jeopardize the environment? Did anybody honestly believe that the world's largest data center? But taking a look at this next clip from Elon Musk, it couldn't be any more evident that they are building a beast, building the beast system.
And, I think some kind of brain-machine interface that can give you cybernetic superpowers, I think, is probably good. It could, help people that have brain or spine injuries. Enable people who've never spoken for years to speak again, which we've done. Give people eyesight who have lost both eyes or the optic nerve, or maybe have never even seen at all, blind from birth, by direct interface to the optical centers in the brain. You can actually restore eyesight, or give people eyesight that they've never had before. And you can enable people to walk again, which I think is profound. I mean, these are kind of Jesus level things, like, let's say, like, when technologies are hitting like Jesus level miracles, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I know some people out there will say, well, what's wrong with technology that can cure the blind, have people walk again, basically, like Elon Musk says, perform miracles like Jesus? And at what point does this technology, or this perhaps AGI or AI, be worshipped like a messiah or a god? And at what point do they want us to join with it, merge with it, like Sam Alternative Man's blog, The Merge, where we all have to get a chip in the brain to become next level humans? Now, I know that sounds like fear mongering, even though we have Peter the Reptile Theo says this is what he envisions, these new bodies through technology. But then you go back to news articles where Elon Musk says directly that they're going to do away with cell phones altogether, because everybody's going to have a chip in the brain. And given the fact that nobody, except the very few, the very rare today, can live without a cell phone, imagine they take away that system and say, in order to get the next best thing, you have to get that chip in your brain. How many people will go along with it? So again, you may be saying it's very nice to have this technology that can cure people like a god, but where does it end from there when treating it like a god?
This is good, a little foreshadowing what you're about to see. Students at Glendale Community College in Arizona were left speechless, disappointed. I read in some comments that people were crying because instead of having a real person read the name as they walk for graduation, they had AI do it, and they missed hundreds of people and they didn't get to walk.
Graduates, everyone who is standing, here's what's happening. We're using a new AI system as our reader. So that is a lesson learned for us. What we were able to do, though, is each of you were able to walk the stage and get a picture, which is what I would hope would be the most meaningful. So I'm going to have to disappoint many of you. We will not be able to walk the stage a second time in order to have the name on the screen. You've handed over your cards, so we won't be able to do that. I am so sorry. There's plenty of opportunities, I hope, to take some really good pictures and to celebrate you with your loved ones as well. Yeah.
Are we going to do the rest?
Yeah. So I'll go let you do that. Okay. One more round of applause for our graduates.
Alrighty, everybody. I have the part of the ceremony that doesn't require AI, so as soon as we figure this out, we're going to be working next.
GCC's graduation, and they just list all these people who are standing in line in black against the wall. I mean, there's the whole section that's in red.
It's disgusting, actually, and if that's not a perfect foreshadowing to humanity, I don't know what is.
Are we really in a day and age of humanity where we need AI to read out the names at a graduation ceremony? And it didn't even do it, which is also very telling. But if people are relying on AI to just do that, society is cooked.
So Georgia's just going to be one big data center. You guys, that is not one data center. That number right there is how many are right here. Also, I just found out that data centers don't even have to legally report how much water they use. Just when you think it can't get any worse, Georgia Power is taking people's property and homes through eminent domain to expand their high voltage power lines to support these data centers. Now, the lovely interns at Science for Georgia have made some interactive maps. The black spots are current data centers. The orange ones are ones that are coming. Look at the numbers just in this area. So these are the current operational estimates for water usage in Georgia. Now, why is this an estimate? Oh yeah, that's right, because they don't legally have to report how much water they're using. However, Senator Durbin out of Illinois has proposed this Water and Energy Transparency Act. The data centers would need to report their energy and water use, and this was just introduced in March. But then I was like, aren't they paying for water by the gallon? They are, and in fact, usually at a much lower rate than you and I. They negotiate rates. Google, for example, paid $6.08 per 1,000 gallons, whereas the locals were paying $10.80 for 1,000 gallons. But just because they're paying for it doesn't mean they have to report it. Now, Project Sail, the 829-acre data center that is coming to Coweta County, Georgia, Georgia Power is set to demolish 2230 homes because they need to expand the power lines. And they are doing this through eminent domain, which is the government's right to take your property if they need it for public use. And in this case, Georgia Power is a public use company. Now, they have to give these people fair market value for their homes and properties. From what I've heard, Georgia Power is not trying to do that.
Absolute insanity, and we're constantly told how this is going to benefit humanity, but everything we've seen so far in the, I guess, the beginning stages of it or the middle stages of it has been having such a negative impact on not just the people, but also the lands, the animals, nature as a whole. Now people have to leave their homes and probably be paid less than what their homes are actually worth.
My name is Brianna Rice, Robinson Road. Speaking for myself, I'm 28 years old. While most people my age are planning vacations, I'm spending my time fighting for survival of my cattle farm. I'm here because a massive data center was approved just a couple of miles from my land, Project Sail, and I'm being hounded by Georgia Power for an easement to build transmission lines through my property for the FET data center. I'm a local farmer, not an industrial developer. These 500 kV lines aren't for me. They are for the data centers that the boards and surrounding counties continue to approve. I have mail from lawyers stacking up on my kitchen table wanting to take my case because they know my land is being targeted for eminent domain. Okay, let's see. I shouldn't have to worry about the specific wording of a legal contract just to keep my own land from being industrialized. When the FET data center was first brought up, it should have been brought attention to all that would be impacted. I did not have a voice to speak my mind, and that feels like an infringement on my First Amendment rights. These easements are permanent. They affect my ability to graze my cattle, they lower my property value, and they destroy the rural character of this county forever. This board makes decisions to approve these massive projects, but it's residents like me, young people trying to build a life here, who pay the price. You're voting to turn our farms into a network of high voltage wires and noisy industrial buildings. I'm asking you to realize the real world impacts of your votes. Every time you say yes to a data center, you're saying no to a local farmer. We aren't just numbers on a map. We are the future of the county, and right now you're making that future impossible. Respectfully, take that cow off the logo. Thank you, and I do have bigger fish to fry.
Taking a quick break from work here. I was just doing a lot of taking a quick break from work here. I was just doing a lot of thinking, just thinking about data centers, thinking about social credit scores, digital currency, all those sorts of things. And to me, it's kind of all tying together when you really think about it. And what I mean by that is, right now, the data centers that we currently have, they're more than enough computing power to run ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, all the AIs I'm probably not even thinking about that everybody uses on a regular basis. Obviously, it's more than enough because people are already using it every single day. And then also, there's no way they could roll out social credit scores or digital currency right now. People would say absolutely no to that. And so why are they increasing all the data centers? Why do we need all this increased computing power? Well, I mean, to run robots that's going to replace humans, you would need a lot of computing power. To track every single human and keep social credit scores on them, you would need a lot of computing power. To have digital currency, you would need a lot of computing power. And then to, you know, orchestrate and keep all that running properly, you would need a lot of computing power. So what I mean by that too is, right now people say, no, I would never accept social credit score, I would never accept digital currency. And I believe that if they try to do it right now, people would say no to that. I think enough people would. But in a few more years, as the robots take over jobs from humans, how will humans get money? Obviously, I would imagine universal basic income of some sort, however that looks like. And so then you will accept the digital currency. You will accept the social credit score, because if you don't, then you will not receive any sort of money in your universal basic income. And guess what? There's no way for you to make money. So to me, that's something that's very, I'm aware of, and I wish more people were talking about that. And I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. What do you guys think?
That is the ultimate end goal, is to have everybody on a digital high basic income currency to go along with your digital ID, your digital wallet. And if you don't have that type of system, you basically cannot buy or sell in this society. And since they have to pay you this high basic income, this digital currency, you're going to have to do everything they say and do in order to earn this currency. You basically have to become a good little NPC, a good little bot. The only question is, how many people are going to comply?
AI is being talked about ad nauseum. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting pretty much sick and tired of hearing about it. And isn't that kind of ironic that this is a video talking about AI? But this is not your average, typical AI video, I promise you that. Because the big question that's on everyone's mind that is not being answered is, what in the world is the end goal? What is all this for? All this technology, all this infrastructure, all these data centers, and all this money that's being funneled into it? What's the end game here? Nobody seems to be able to answer. And that is why I took some time to dig into this as deeply as I possibly could, and I took down some notes. And I want to share those with you because I think answering this question is very, very important. And I just want to say straight up front, this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm just some crazy guy with a camera that has no idea what I'm talking about. There's no evidence to back any of this stuff up. Wink, wink. So I'll tell you what I did. I looked into some of the current happenings that's going on with AI. I documented that. And then I listened to what the people are saying. Because again, nobody can answer the question about what AI is actually going to be used for. Because when you look at the actual data and what they're saying it's going to be used for, it doesn't add up. So I went out and I scoured the web and I found all of the theories that people have on this topic. And I documented those. And I'll just tell you that the last theory is pretty darn crazy. It's actually kind of shocking, a little bit scary. But we're going to go through all 5 of these. I found 5. And oh, by the way, as I go through this, I'm going to try to remove all bias and conjecture from this conversation and just focus on the facts. So I'm not really going to give my input about what I think about this stuff. It's just going to be what I have observed. And I want to hear y'all's input on this as well. I want to know, which theory do you think is most plausible? And it doesn't have to be just one. It could be numerous theories. Maybe it's a combination of all of them. But I want to hear y'all's input on this. But the first thing that we need to do before we dig into the theories is talk about some of the stuff that's happening that doesn't add up. So here's a big one here. So Coweta County, Georgia. Okay, they're implementing eminent domain, and they're trying to take over 330 private properties to expand the power out there. And all that power is going to be basically funneled straight into a $17 billion data center project. It's called Project Sail. It's going to take up 830 acres. So the people that basically have eminent domain forced upon them, some of them are actually filing lawsuits against the county and against the state for trying to take their property. Because to those people in Georgia, this doesn't really make any sense. They're putting this AI infrastructure above the people. They're willing to take their land, and they're willing to put their power and their energy grids at risk to power this data center. It just doesn't add up for these people. It doesn't add up for a lot of people from what I'm finding. And there's another project that's happening. It's called, I don't know what this one's called, but it's happening at Lake Tahoe. And basically what's happening here is that NV Energy is now telling the residents of Lake Tahoe, there's about 49,000 of them, that they're going to have to find their own source of power. Because come, what is it, May 2027, they're going to stop providing 75% of all electricity, and they're going to basically redirect that to data center projects. Kind of sounds very similar to the thing happening in Coweta County, Georgia. And this one's kind of crazy because the energy prices for these people out there around Lake Tahoe has already risen 77% since 2022 because of AI infrastructure. Again, this is another one of those situations where the power grids are basically being stressed to the limit. They're putting these data centers and the AI infrastructure over the people. It doesn't really add up. And another thing that's happening is in Utah. You might have heard this one, but in Utah, this was just recently announced. Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, all right, he just announced that they're going to be breaking ground on a 40,000 acre data center project. 40,000 acres. Now, when I first read this, I was like, there's no way this can be true. It has to be made up. People are getting the numbers wrong. Something's not right. But I did a lot of research into this, and it is actually 40,000 acres. That is 62 square miles, roughly the size of Washington, D.C. This is going to be a data center compound. And this apparently went to local jurisdiction there in Utah, and the people traveled from all over to protest this. But apparently the decision was already made before they even had the hearing, and they approved it. So it's going to happen. And this is going to use 9 gigawatts of power once it's totally done. Now keep in mind that the entire state of Utah, all infrastructure and all residences combined only uses 4 gigawatts a year. This is going to use 9. It is going to use natural gas, and it's supposedly going to be emitting 35 million metric tons of carbon emissions every single year. The entire state only emits 55 million metric tons a year. So it's going to raise the state's emissions by 64%. That also doesn't really add up to people, because when you think about that, what have we been hearing for the last couple decades? Climate change. We need to reduce global emissions. But now we have a single data center. This is just one, keep that in mind, that is going to be emitting that much more carbon emissions. But now that doesn't seem to matter. So we have to ask ourselves, why is this infrastructure more important? And another thing about this is that they want to use floating solar panels and other renewable energy sources to power this thing. And in order for them to install enough floating solar panels in the Great Salt Lake to power this giant data center, it's going to take up another 40,000 acres. But that's going to be 40,000 acres of the lake. And what they're saying is that that amount of solar panels would cover 16% of the lake's northern arm. And this lake has already dropped, I think, 20-some% over the last, I think, 2 decades or something like that. But again, that doesn't seem to matter. And when you really dig into all this stuff that doesn't seem to matter anymore, it gets even crazier, because from the research I've done, we'll go through some other stuff here. All right, so most of these data centers, and what I read was 80 to 90% of these data centers use water in some capacity. And when they use water, 80 to 90% of these data centers pull it from a water source. That could be a lake, a stream, a well, an underground aquifer. It doesn't really matter what the source is, but it's always going to be a natural source of water that these data centers pull from. Now, some of that gets recycled and it gets put back into the environment. Some of it doesn't. And some of the water that is recycled and put back into the environment is discharged as wastewater. Now, it's supposed to be clean before it goes back out, but that is not necessarily the case with all of this stuff. And from what I read, a medium-sized data center uses around 100 million gallons of water a year. All right. A large hyperscale data center uses around 1 to 5 million gallons of water per day. And all of the data centers here in the US currently use a combined total of 449 million gallons of water per day. And what makes that even crazier is that the water that's discharged back into the environment, a lot of that is discharged back in the form of water vapor. So it doesn't necessarily go straight back into the ground, it just evaporates and it goes back into the water cycle. So the problem with that, though, is that these data centers use water at a rate that is much faster than it takes the natural water cycle to replenish the water supplies in the ground or the lakes or the streams. So what happens is these natural water supplies end up running dry. This also doesn't make sense to a lot of people because, again, certain things that supposedly matter or are supposed to matter suddenly don't matter when it comes to AI. And when you think about the amount of power and water that's currently being used for these AI data centers, that is only powering and supplying water to 5,500. That's roughly about how many there are in the US. Now, over the next 4 years, there are supposed to be more than 12,000 of these data centers in operation. They're investing over $5.2 trillion into AI infrastructure over the next 4 years. That's pretty wild. So that means that all of this water is going to be consumed at much higher rates. That means that all of this power is going to be rerouted and consumed at much higher rates. That means our natural resources are going to be stressed. It means that our power grids are going to be stressed. It means that more people are probably going to be displaced. It means that more farmland is probably going to be consumed. That means that less food can be grown. And it also means that there's going to be more carbon emissions.